It's a Big Bang Theory, but with a catchphrase not of Bazinga, but Kaboomerino. It's Sanctuary of Reality, my comic review series. Time now for Cerebus, issue 289 and 290 as a double issue. So if you get one, you got the other automatically. And it's also the 24th and 25th chapters of Latter Days, but it's the beginning of its second book, which is the 16th phone book of the Cerebus collection, and that is The Last Day. It begins here with this one. You can still get this in print at your local comic book store or any other online retailer you get it from, or you can get the original issues, which are still there. You can still find them at your local store, maybe, perhaps, but always trust these. As Cerebus dreams and cycles through his various looks throughout the series, he gets a mental download of the origin of life, the universe, and everything else. In the beginning there was God. Eventually, he brings forth from within him his spirit into its own being. God's spirit is immediately indignant at this and wants to be joined back together. But he's like, just be yourself. I'll always be with you and be content with this. But God's spirit isn't content. And when God threatens to bring forth God's spirit's equal in an effort to show him his folly, God's spirit demands that he does so. So God does so. And he brings forth God's spirit's equal from his word. And thus is born the light. God's spirit joins with the light. The light, wanting to be like God's spirit and God, brings forth her own equal from within. And from within that comes that's equal. And so on and so forth, creating more and more smaller spirits, which then want to merge together to be greater, and many also multiply as a result. This leads to the light soon exploding out into the deep, and all spirits wanting to be equal to God leads to the creation of the stars, each a small recreation of the light by the various merged spirits, trapping them within a veritable hell for all eternity, or at least until the star burns out and returns to the dust of the universe from whence it came from. Eventually, God has pity on some thrice merged spirits and brings forth the earth from some of the most heavy and poisonous of those spirits. And from the earth come the plants, the fish, and eventually the animals, and with man coming about in God's image. The formation of the embryo itself, an echo of the struggle between God and God's spirit. But eventually, so too will the earth die and become merged with what's left of the sun. Will any of the merged spirits ever be able to escape this endless cycle? And if so, where will they end up? Like with Latter Days, the phone book has exclusive annotations in the back that talk about each issue and what went into making it, background stuff, that kind of thing. And they're so highly recommended. If you have the original issues, you get the phone book just for that. In this case of this issue, there's actually extra annotations at the bottom of the page in the original issue and in the phone book about what went into Dave Sim's research for this issue. So there's pretty much everything that can be said about this issue is said about it between the two annotations. So I found this issue, well, double issue technically, to be far more readable and therefore more enjoyable than the exegesis of the last few issues, because it's done more graphically. The art and the text are together, and it's more natural and just flows better as sequential art than just text dumped on us with some art over on the side. As for the story, it's basically Dave Sim's view of the grand unified theory of everything. He combines science and religion into a sort of origin story for the universe. It's very uniquely Dave Sim. Is it the one true theory of everything? The absolute final word in this particular topic? Hmm? Probably not, but I can't begrudge anyone trying to divine there being one. If you read even a little bit of the exegesis stuff from the into latter days, you'll get the gist of this with God and Yu Wu. A lot of that stuff is kind of rehashed at the beginning, or for the most part through most of it. Um, so it's at the very least a summation of that at the very core of the story. Could you skip this issue or this double issue and not miss anything? Yes, but the fact that this exists and this is presented here is factored into the story. It's not like before with the exegesis where the what was on the page wasn't actually important to the storyline. It was just the fact that he was reading from the Torah was all you needed to know. This one, what is being said and what's in it, it becomes important in the rest of the latter days, or the last day rather, since, well, latter days is still going, but the last day of the storyline. So I would not recommend skipping this one. Just give it a good read. And there are some themes in this issue, for instance, that are important to the very last issue of the series. Though if your patience was tested by the exegesis stuff, this probably wouldn't help. I feel like this would have had more impact had it not come on the heels of the exegesis stuff. You know, like we've had too much of biblical stuff at once, and now you got a little more. I think if that, like I said, if they had cut down the commentaries a little bit and had, and this was still there, I think it would have had a little more impact, but that's just me. But I think this one is definitely worth reading, whether you find it enlightening, whether you find it interesting, or you just find it unintentionally funny. I still think it's a worthwhile double issue. Next time, Cerebus faces his greatest challenge, getting out of bed.